Page 223, Chapter 12, The 1980 Lok Sabha Elections and After. Indira Gandhi headed into the 1980 elections strong and confident as ever, demonstrating that she clearly had her finger on the pulse of the nation. She predicted a rousing victory. This was evident in an interaction I had with her on the choice of party candidates for election. While I was all for choosing core and loyal congressmen to contest, Indira Gandhi advised me to, open inverted comma, choose people who could run the government, close inverted comma. So confident was she of electoral success, and her confidence was well founded. Para. She had strongly advised me against the contesting. I repeat, she had strongly advised me against contesting the Lok Sabha election in 1980, but gave in at my insistence. I contested the election from the Bolpur constituency and was defeated by a margin of 68,629 votes. The CPIM candidate retained the seat, open bracket. He had been elected from this constituency in 1962, 1971, and 1977, close bracket. Since the delimitation in 1962, this seat had been won by the Congress only once in 1967. The decisive feat demoralized me. I had worked hard and secured nearly 200,000 votes, but the CPIM was superior in organization. Moreover, infighting within the Congress, lack of organizational enterprise, and, worst of all, sabotage from some local Congress leaders were some of the key factors for my defeat. Page 224. In the rest of the country, the performance of the Congress, was good. It secured more than a two-thirds majority in the Lok Sabha, but in West Bengal, it bagged only 4 out of 42 seats. Barakat was elected from Malda by a margin of nearly 12,000 votes. The other 3 successful candidates were Ashok Kumar Sen, Anand Gopal Mukherjee, and Dr. Ghulam Yazdani. Para. My wife Geeta had already left for Delhi when the results came out. She called me on the same day and said I should return to Delhi immediately as Indira Gandhi wanted to meet me. I returned to Delhi by the evening flight and went straight to 12 Willingdon Crescent to meet Indira Gandhi. It would not be an understatement to say that she was unhappy about my insistence to contest the election. Sanjay Gandhi told me she had been upset ever since she had heard of my defeat, and she made her displeasure evident when I met her. I was unambiguously chastised. It was about 9 p.m. and Indira Gandhi was sitting in the dining room at one end of the long dining table. She had a bad cold and was soaking her feet in a tub of warm water. Standing at the other end of the dining table, I received a vociferous dressing down for what seemed to be an interminable span of time. I was rebuked for taking the ill-advised decision of contesting from Bolpur against her advice, and was told that such imprudent decisions nullified all my other hard work. Having recognized my folly, I could do nothing but stand there till she calmed down. She then sent me home with a basket of fruit. Para. The media was rife with speculation about the proposed cabinet. Various names were suggested, but no one mentioned mine. Everyone had taken it for granted that my electoral defeat would cause me to be left out of the government. Bengali newspapers started projecting Barakat, and his supporters also went about saying that he was tipped for an important portfolio. Page 225. So much so that congressmen from West Bengal came to Delhi and started flocking around Barakat, who stayed at Jeet Paul's Park Hotel in New Delhi in those days. At my invitation, some of them came to my residence for dinner. Though I refrained from discussing it with them, they seemed to rather enjoy my predicament. Congress leaders from Assam, Orissa, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh, however, came and told me they would talk to Indira and Sanjay Gandhi about my inclusion in the cabinet. I told them to leave matters where they were and not to lobby for me. But they were insistent. I do not know for certain, but I believe they did take the matter up with Indira Gandhi. Para. On 10th January, Indira Gandhi was elected leader of the party at the meeting of the Congress I Parliamentary Party. I attended the meeting as usual. Indira Gandhi's name was proposed by B. Shankaranand, elected to the Lok Sabha from Chikkodi in Karnataka, and seconded by Jamilur Rahman, a member from Purnia, Bihar. Para. On 11th and 12th January, I was mostly at my residence. A stream of visitors, Congress leaders from the states and the center, as also newly elected MPs from Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, and Gujarat came to meet me. I repeat, came and met me. One senior leader told me that Indira Gandhi had advised him to see me, and a few others reported similarly. I still cannot reason why, but perhaps Indira Gandhi felt that my defeat should not bog me down. When the Sikkim Chief Minister Narbahadur Bhandari and the Assam Chief Minister Jogendranath Hazarika met Indira Gandhi, she instructed them to talk to me since I was looking after the northeastern region. On the afternoon of 12th January, Kamal Nath came to see me and told me of some likely inclusions in the cabinet. I thought there might be some truth in the information that Kamal Nath was. I repeat, I thought there might be some truth in the information since Kamal Nath was so close to Sanjay Gandhi. He said he was trying to induct Barakat as a cabinet minister. Page 226. He then asked me if I had a word with Indira Gandhi or with Sanjay Gandhi about my inclusion in the cabinet. Open bracket, I had a hunch that Kamal Nath wanted to know my mind. Close bracket. I apprised him in the negative, and he left saying that he was going to meet Sanjay Gandhi. Sanjay Gandhi called me in the evening and asked me to meet him. When I reached Indira Gandhi's residence, Sanjay Gandhi told me clearly that he was sorry to know that I was upset about the possibility of my non-inclusion in the government. I told him he was incorrectly informed because, frankly, I did not mull over that matter at all after my defeat, and that I knew it would be quite embarrassing to approach Indira Gandhi for my inclusion in the government. To this, Sanjay Gandhi told me, open brackets, open inverted comma, it was already decided to include me in the government with the cabinet rank as Commerce Minister, close inverted comma. But he had no idea whether I would be among the first lot to be sworn in or the second. He asked me to speak to Indira Gandhi. I told him I didn't think it appropriate to speak to her on this matter. Meanwhile, I was informed that Indira Gandhi wanted to speak to me. When I met her, she told me to talk to the Sikkim Chief Minister Narbahadur Bhandari and work out a scheme for the merger of his party with the Congress. After this, she sought my opinion regarding certain individuals without citing any specific reason for such inquiry. I gave her my account of those individuals. I gave her my account of those individuals. The names she had mentioned kept appearing in newspapers as likely entrants into the cabinet. After some 20 minutes of discussion, she told me to carry some fruit back home for my wife and children, and a servant was asked to carry a basket to my car. At her residence gate, I met Burun Sengupta, a good friend of mine. Burun Babu was anxious to know if I had had any conversation with the Prime Minister designate about the formation of the cabinet. Page 227. I told him we had only spoken of the Sikkim organization, which in any case was true. The next day, on 13 January, I had several visitors at my residence, many of whom wanted to know if I was going to be included in the government. I disappointed all. Para. On the morning of 14 January, the date fixed for the swearing-in ceremony, newspapers were agog with speculation. At about 9:30 a.m., I received a call from R.K. Dhawan requesting me to be at Rashtrapati Bhavan by 11 a.m. He told me that I need not wait for any message or call from the Cabinet Secretary. I repeat, Cabinet Secretariat. Accompanied by Mr. Abrol, Member of Customs and Chairman of CBEC, open bracket, Central Board of Excise and Customs, close bracket, during my tenure from 1975 to 1977, I drove to Rashtrapati Bhavan. When I reached the Ashoka Hall, footnote 80, there was no seat for me in the row of the ministers to be sworn in. I looked at Indira Gandhi, who immediately realized that something was amiss. R.K. Dhawan came up to me and asked me to wait. He went to the cabinet secretary and then consulted the president's secretary, only to discover that in the letter recommending the names of ministers to be appointed, my name had been handwritten, not typed. The President's Secretariat had inadvertently missed it as a consequence. Naturally, no seat had been earmarked for me. Indira Gandhi immediately wrote another letter by hand and got it delivered to the President's Secretary. I was asked to sit between R. Venkataraman and P.V. Narasimha Rao. The swearing-in papers were handed over to me, but not being in possession of the list of ministers, I did not know my portfolio. I asked P.V. Narasimha Rao and R. Venkataraman, but they told me that they were not privy to any details except their respective portfolios. Footnotes. Footnote 80. When I was entering the Ashoka Hall, I met Bhagwat Jha Azad, who was leaving in a huff. Later, I learned that he had refused to be sworn in as a Minister of State. Azad joined the cabinet as a Minister of State a few months later and remained a Minister of State for the rest of his tenure. Page 228. Indira Gandhi was sworn in first, followed by Kamalapati Tripathi. The names that followed his were called out alphabetically. A total of 22 members were sworn in as the Council of Ministers. Footnote 81. The state-wise breakup of the Council of Ministers was thus: UP 2, West Bengal 2, Andhra Pradesh 3, Tamil Nadu 2, Bihar 3, Karnataka 2, Maharashtra 1, Gujarat 1, Punjab 1, Haryana 1, Assam 1, Orissa 1, Rajasthan 1, and Madhya Pradesh 1. Footnote 82. There was no one in the cabinet who was not a member of either the two houses of Parliament. I was the only person defeated in the Lok Sabha election, though I continued to be a member of the Rajya Sabha. Para. The Tribune published from Chandigarh commented on my inclusion. Open inverted comma. A last-minute addition to the cabinet was Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, who has just been defeated in the election for Lok Sabha in West Bengal. He is a member of the Rajya Sabha. His name was added quite some time after Mrs. Gandhi had sent the final list to the President N. Sanjeeva Reddy. Close inverted comma. Media rumors had it that Indira Gandhi wanted to have a team of 22, an astrologically auspicious number, and since Bhagwat Jha Azad had refused to be sworn in, I was included. Rumors stemming from fertile imaginations indeed, since I had already explained the sequence of events leading to my inclusion. Footnotes. Footnote 81. Indira Gandhi, Kamalapati Tripathi, Gyani Zail Singh, B. Shankaranand, Vasan Sathe, A.B.A. Ghani Khan Chaudhary, Rao Birendra Singh, P.C. Sethi, Bhishma Narayan Singh, A.P. Sharma, P.V. Narasimha Rao, R. Venkataraman, J.B. Patnaik, P. Shiv Shankar, and I were sworn in as full cabinet ministers, and R. V. Swaminathan, P. Venkatasubbiah, Jagannath Pahadia, Niharanjan Laskar, Yogendra Makwana, J.K. Jafar Sharif, and Karthik Oraon were sworn in as ministers of state. Footnote 82. Out of the 22 ministers sworn in, 4 were from the Rajya Sabha, including myself, and the rest from the Lok Sabha. 2 were Muslims, 4 represented the scheduled castes, and 1 the scheduled tribes. Page 229. During this period, UNIDO, open bracket, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, close bracket, 3, was hosted in Delhi. The Prime Minister decided that I should preside over the conference, which was to be attended by a large number of the heads of government. R. Venkataraman was to lead the Indian delegation as the Minister of Industry. S. Rangachari, who was a member of the Central Board of Excise and Customs during my previous tenure as Minister of State for Revenue and Expenditure and Minister of State for Revenue and Banking, was in charge of this conference. He came to brief me. By now, I was appointed leader of the House in Rajya Sabha. 2 days before this, Indira Gandhi had asked me who should be leader of the Rajya Sabha. Of the 3 other MPs from the Rajya Sabha, A.P. Sharma, Bhishma Narayan Singh, and I. A.P. Sharma was desirous and had already started lobbying. I told Indira Gandhi that A.P. Sharma was senior to me in age and made it quite clear that I was not entirely keen for the position. But at the end of the day, she decided to nominate me, and a communication to this effect was sent to the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. I was nominated by Indira Gandhi on 18th January 1980 and again in August 1981, and held that office till 31st December 1984. Para. Since now I was leader of the House in Rajya Sabha, and given that we had been reduced to a hopeless minority in the Rajya Sabha, my presence in the House was of absolute necessity. I explained my predicament to Indira Gandhi. She appreciated my concern and decided that R. Venkataraman would preside over this prestigious international conference. Para. At that time, the Congress I had only 69 members in a House of 244. The position was awkward but not unusual. Page 230. The annual ruling party had lost the majority in the Rajya Sabha for the first time since the 1969 split in the Congress. This deficiency was made up for during the biennial elections in 1972, 1974, and 1976. Again, when the Janata Party came to power in 1977, it formed a minority in the Rajya Sabha. The Congress had 165 members in the House at that time. But in 1978, the Congress split again, and in the biennial elections of 1978, the strength of the Congress got reduced substantially. Footnote 83. In none of the state assemblies, except Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, did the Congress have a majority. In Maharashtra, the Congress I and the Congress Ers had equal strength. Para. I continued to be the leader of the House for a full term of 5 years till 31st December 1984, when I was dropped from the government. I had then the second longest tenure as the leader of the Rajya Sabha, second only to Govind Ballabh Pant. Later, however, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had the longest tenure as leader of the House, open bracket, Rajya Sabha, close bracket, that lasted for 10 years from 2004 to 2014. Para. When the Rajya Sabha session started, I had anticipated trouble I repeat, para. When the Rajya Sabha session started, I had anticipated trouble and had discussions with leaders of the opposition in the House in an effort to prevail upon them not to press for a division. I told them that during the Janata Party rule, we had a majority in the Rajya Sabha, but we had extended support to the ruling party on the motion of thanks to the President, even though in that address our, open bracket, outgoing, close bracket, government's policies were bitterly criticized. I also highlighted that a similar situation may crop up in the future, and hence there should be some understanding among the parties in the Rajya Sabha not to play a confrontational role to the majority party in the Lok Sabha. Footnotes. Footnote 83. The party-wise breakup in the Rajya Sabha was as follows. Congress I 69, Congress Ers 43, Janata 45, Janata S 19, CPI 9, AIADMK 9, CPI M 7, DMK 2, MLA 2, and the FB, PWP, RWP, Akali Dal, RPI, Kerala Congress, National People's Conference, and Socialist Party with one each. There were 9 nominated members, 12 independents, and 10 vacant seats. Page 231. The opposition leaders, however, did not buy this argument. They insisted that the government should give a categorical assurance that the state assemblies would not be dissolved as they had been in 1977. They were prepared to cooperate with the government only on such an assurance, which they said must come from the Prime Minister while replying to the debate on the motion of thanks. I told them that the government could I repeat, I told them that the government could not bind itself by giving any such blanket assurance. Later, when I discussed this issue with the Prime Minister, she agreed with me. A group of ministers, including myself, started reviewing this situation. Para. The Congress was accused of promoting defections, and examples of Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, and Karnataka were cited by the opposition parties. The cases of defection in Haryana and Himachal were outright, as the members of these assemblies were elected on non-Congress tickets. But the case of Karnataka was different. In the Karnataka Assembly elections in 1978, the Indira-led Congress I had won hands down, defeating the Congress led by Chavan and Brahmananda Reddy, as also the Janata Party. In 1979, Devraj Urs, the Chief Minister of Karnataka, was expelled from the Congress I, but he remained the Chief Minister as a majority of the Congress I MLAs continued to support him. That is when the party split. After the 1980 Lok Sabha elections, all of Devraj Ur's candidates were defeated, and the majority of the Congress I MLAs returned to Indira Gandhi's Congress, which formed the government under the chief ministership of Gundu Rao. This, in fact, was a split and a rejoining of the Congress I in a matter of just 6 to 7 months, something that could hardly be treated as defection. Of course, in Haryana, we made a mistake by allowing Bhajan Lal to switch over to Congress I with his team. Page 232. The first 6 months were a tough ride for me since we had no majority in the House. The first encounter was during the motion of thanks to the President for his address to the joint session of Parliament. Bhupesh Gupta and others moved the following amendment to be added to the end of the motion of thanks. Open inverted comma. But regret that the address does not take notice of the disturbing attempts to engineer defections on a large scale in the assemblies in flagrant violation of all federal principles, nor does it give any assurance that the government will not in any manner encourage directly or indirectly such attempts at subverting the Constitution and flouting democratic norms and standards. Close inverted comma. Footnote 84. Para. The issue naturally was a complex one, and we could not give a straightforward commitment that we would not dissolve the State Assembly to appease the opposition. We stood our ground and informed the opposition leaders that the government was unable to give any such assurance. Whips were issued to all party members, and I tried to get the support of some unattached independent members too, but we lost the motion. Para. This amendment was passed by 79 votes against 75. Margaret Alva, Amarjit Kaur, K.C. Pant, Dinesh Singh, and Narendra Singh were among those who voted in favor of the amendment and ensured the defeat of the government. Margaret Alva and K.C. Pant were later included in the Rajiv Gandhi cabinet. Amarjit Kaur was given the post of Joint Secretary of the AICC. We got some votes from the independents, such as R.K. Podera, Dinesh Goswami, B.P. Maurya, and Devendra Dwivedi. Footnote 84. Rajya Sabha Debates, Volume 112, Number 6, 30th January 1980, page 349. Para. I felt small at this defeat suffered by the party at the very first encounter. All the more because some of our party members had defied the whip and absented themselves. Indira Gandhi told me to take it easy. Page 233. Para. Nevertheless, I asked Bhishma Narayan Singh, I repeat, Bhishma Narayan Singh, Minister for Parliamentary Affairs and the Chief Whip of the party, to call for an explanation from each absentee member. Over the following 2 days, all 4 absentee members met me and expressed regret. My stern attitude yielded effect. In subsequent years, I barely ever faced such a problem, though the whip had to be used at times to keep the attendance steady. Para. During the same session, I had to cross another hurdle, an even more difficult one. An ordinance had been proclaimed by the outgoing caretaker government seeking to provide the central and state governments with preventive detention powers to deal with black marketeers and to maintain essential supplies. At that time, the leftist chief ministers of West Bengal, Tripura, and Kerala, as well as the Congress I, opposed the ordinance, though for different reasons. While the former opposed it as a matter of principle, the Congress I's objection was on the technical ground that a caretaker government could not assume such sweeping powers on the eve of elections. Now, after assuming office, we had to decide the fate of the ordinance. Para. When we assumed office in January 1980, the wholesale price index had risen to 22.7%, the highest in the 1980s. The government hence had decided to replace the ordinance by a regular bill, the Prevention of Black Marketing and Maintenance of Essential Supplies Bill, with the aim of adequately checking black marketeers and hoarders and thus the prices. It was my responsibility to pilot the bill in Parliament. Para. I faced stiff opposition in the Lok Sabha. In the Rajya Sabha, the bill was discussed on 1st February and passed easily. It generated enormous interest in the media, as was evident in the headlines the next day across almost all national and regional papers. A few editorial comments were also made. While the parties of the left maintained their principled opposition to the bill, other parties took a peculiar stand. Page 234. They opposed the bill on the ground that the Congress I, under Indira Gandhi, could not be trusted with the power of preventive detention. They were certain that it would be misused as she had, open inverted comma, misused, close inverted comma, MISA, capital M-I-S-A, during the emergency, despite an assurance given by her that it would not be used against political opponents. The stand taken by the Congressers and Lokdal was assuming because they, open bracket, the Charan Chavan government, close bracket, were the ones responsible for the promulgation of the ordinance in the first place. Para. I appeal to opposition members not to be subjective and unduly obsessive with past experience. I explained the provisions of the bill and pointed out that adequate constitutional safeguards had been incorporated to protect individual liberty. I also assured them that the government would ensure that the provisions were not misused. Jyoti Basu, Jyoti Basu, in his characteristic manner, challenged the government and boasted that the communist governments in 3 states would not implement the law. I firmly pointed out that it was the constitutional responsibility of the central government to ensure the implementation of the law passed by Parliament, the highest national forum of the country, and that it was not sensible for any member to encourage non-implementation. Para. My reply to the debate was sharp and hard-hitting. I told the Janata Party members that if they were opposed to the preventive detention on principle, they could have removed the provisions from the Constitution when they introduced the Constitution Amendment Bill, open bracket, 48th Amendment, close bracket. I asked the members belonging to the Lokdal and the Congressers to explain the contradiction between their promulgation of the ordinance in October 1979 and opposing the same provisions in January 1980. The bill was passed by 188 to 56 votes in the Lok Sabha. Page 235. The CPIM saw the shadow of authoritarianism in the passage of this bill. The party's leader in West Bengal, the late Pramod Dasgupta, criticized my observations in the Lok Sabha and drew the conclusion that authoritarianism was raising its head. Chief Ministers Jyoti Basu of West Bengal, E.K. Nayanar of Kerala and Ripen Chakraborty of Tripura reiterated their unwillingness to implement the law. However, they pinned their hopes on the bill getting defeated in the Rajya Sabha due to the numerical strength of the opposition parties in that house. Para. The bill came to the Rajya Sabha for discussion on 4th February. Though the opposition tried to postpone the discussion, I requested the chairman to start the discussion rather than set a new precedent. Bhupesh Gupta made, Bhupesh Gupta made a hard-hitting speech. I was the butt of his attack, but as usual, his attack had no malice. My reply to the debate was equally hard-hitting, as it demolished all the arguments of the opposition speakers. All sections of the House congratulated me after my speech. Eminent lawyer and former Law Minister Shanti Bhushan quoted a number of jurists whose opposing preventive detention on principle. Quoted a number of jurists while opposing preventive detention on principle. I responded by saying that while I had no eminent jurist to back my argument in favor of continuing preventive detention, if I could, I would quote one authority, and that would be Shanti Bhushan himself. I quoted a few lines from his speech in the Rajya Sabha in defense of the preventive detention while piloting the Constitutional Amendment Bill in 1978. Para. The effect was telling. This had a devastating impact on the critics of the bill, particularly the Janata Party. The attacks that came from Surjit and Bhupesh Gupta were sharper. They contended that I was threatening the state governments which had declared their inability to implement preventive detention law. One of my remarks at a press meet in Calcutta, as well as an observation in the Lok Sabha, had been interpreted as a warning. To the state governments. Page 236. While replying to the debate, I said that I had not threatened any state government. Rather, I had merely explained the constitutional responsibility of the union government in implementing a law passed by the parliament. The session went into the evening, and as a matter of common courtesy, I invited all members to dinner. Bhupesh Gupta was cryptic in his remark when he said, open inverted comma, "Sir, gastronomically we have been enthused because provision has been made for our dinner, but that will not make any change in our stand." Close inverted comma. Footnote 85. Being in a numerically better position in the Rajya Sabha, the opposition parties were confident of success, more so as they had defeated a government motion just a few days before, on 30th January. Besides, they had combined and decided to support a motion moved by Pranab Mukherjee in Congress Years to refer this bill to the Select Committee. Para. The confidence of the opposition parties about defeating the government on the motion also became obvious from the comments made by various members in Parliament and outside. Not wishing to take a chance, I talked to all like-minded members and parties to garner their support. The DMK and the AIADMK were approached, who assured us of their support, and a large number of unattached/independent members too promised their support. Not only that, a few members who were loath to support us openly agreed to absent themselves at the time of voting. I also ensured that all our party members presented themselves for the vote, and both my office and that of the whips were fully geared to meet the situation. Footnote 85. Rajya Sabha Debates, Volume 112, Numbers 9, 4th February 1980, pages 251 to 252. Para. I succeeded. Pranab Mukherjee's motion was put to vote and was rejected. Open brackets, 87 votes cast in favor, 101 votes against. Close bracket. The motion, I repeat, the main motion moved by me was then carried by voice vote. The opposition was totally demoralized. Indira Gandhi personally congratulated me. She was present in the House at the time of voting and jokingly told me, open inverted comma, though I have no voting in this House, I have to render you support. Close inverted comma. Page 237. She smiled when the electronic switchboard flashed the results. Open inverted comma, congratulations, close inverted comma, she said. Para, the passage of this bill became the lead news item in many national and regional dailies. The Times of India, Delhi, reported. The Congress-I government secured a major victory in the opposition-dominated Rajya Sabha today. Open bracket, 4th February 1980, close bracket, when the House adopted the controversial Prevention of Black Marketing and Maintenance of Essential Supplies Bill, rejecting an opposition amendment. The amendment, which stood in the name of Mrs. Pranab Mukherjee, Congress U, sought to refer the bill to an 18-member select committee of the House. It was turned down by 101 votes to 87. Para. Last week, the government suffered a defeat when the opposition succeeded in amending the motion of thanks on the President's address. Then the opposition amendment was carried by 80 votes in favor and 75 against. Congress-I has only 79 members in the House, having an effective strength of 232. It, however, seemed to have received the support of DMK and AIADMK parties, having respective strength of 5 and 7. A few others, including some independents, supported the passage of the bill. A total of 188 members were present, all voting either way with no absent. I repeat, with no abstention. Para. My third confrontation with the opposition in the Rajya Sabha was in the context of the biannual elections to the Rajya Sabha due in March 1980. Page 238. 1/3 of the members were to retire by 2nd April 1980. The assemblies were dissolved on 17th February. Consequently, the assemblies of Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Punjab, Orissa, Tamil Nadu, and Maharashtra were not in a position to fill the vacancies caused by the retirement of members from these states. While the Congress I did not have more than one member each from these states, the opposition parties had many. So out of the retiring members, Congress I did not have more than 10 to 15 members, while the opposition parties were to lose 60 to 70 members. The composition of the House would change radically on 2nd April, and Congress I would not have to endure what it had to on earlier occasions. The President's proclamation of dissolution of the state assemblies and imposition of the President's rule was to be approved by the House within 2 months from the date of proclamation. The opposition parties demanded that the proclamation should be considered before 2nd April. That is, when they would still be in a position to vote out the proclamation and create a constitutional crisis. Indira Gandhi appointed a small group to discuss the issue of dissolving state assemblies, which included me, Gyani Zail Singh, P.V. Narasimha Rao, Bhishma Narayan Singh, and R. Venkataraman, to examine this issue from various angles. We talked with senior state leaders of the party, as also with some senior AICC leaders, including Kamalapati Tripathi, Stephen, and others. The consensus was that these assemblies should be dissolved and fresh elections held. Someone suggested that we should win over the parties ruling in the states, as had been the case with Haryana and Himachal Pradesh. I did not approve of this line of action and told Indira Gandhi that it would be desirable to have a clear mandate from the people. It was also felt that without a fresh mandate, the political smokescreen would not clear up. Accordingly, we recommended the dissolution of these assemblies, except for those in Karnataka, Haryana, and Himachal Pradesh. Page 239. On the day of dissolution, I had gone to a nearby tourist spot in Haryana and spent the morning there, along with my family members and friends. Dharmveer Sinha and Sheikh Hasina Wajid, open bracket, daughter of Mujibur Rahman, close bracket, with her family, had also joined us at the picnic. Knowing that the formal announcement would be made in the evening, I returned by late afternoon. Para. When Parliament assembled on 11th March 1980, there was a furor in both the houses of Parliament. In the Rajya Sabha, the entire opposition came down heavily on the government. They wanted discussions on the resolution moved by the government to seek the approval of the House before 2nd April. L.K. Advani, the leader of the opposition, Bhupesh Gupta, and other opposition leaders spearheaded the attack. They described the move of the government as unconstitutional and undemocratic. After prolonged discussions on the points raised by opposition leaders, I rose to reply. I observed that since the Constitution provided that the approval of the House had to be sought within 2 months of the date of proclamation, the government was well within its rights to seek the approval any time before 17th April, the expiry of the 2-month period. I disagreed with the main contention of the opposition leaders that after 2nd April, the composition of the House would change as 1/3 of the members would retire. Would retire, rendering those seats vacant till the elections to state assemblies and the biennial elections to the Rajya Sabha. My argument was that the vacancies in some seats would not debar the House from discharging its constitutional duties and responsibilities. All states would have their representations in the House, since 2/3 of the members would remain, and states like Andhra, Karnataka, Assam, West Bengal, and Gujarat would have full representation since the time for their biennial elections to the Rajya Sabha had yet to come. Secondly, the Supreme Judgment had made it abundantly clear in the (1977) dissolution case that the theory of mandate was relevant. Page 240. As a political party, we had accepted the judgment in this case despite our reservations at the initial stages when we challenged the government's order in 1977 in the Supreme Court. Shanti Bhushan pointed out that the verdict of the people in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar was not so decisive. 2 states had given the ruling party some seats in the Lok Sabha election of 1980 and none to Congress in the election of 1977. I pointed out that in 1977, assemblies had been dissolved in states like West Bengal, Orissa, and Gujarat too, though the Congress had got some Lok Sabha seats from these states. I pointed out that we were just following a precedent set by the Janata Party in 1977. When the members insisted on being informed of the exact date on which the resolution would be placed for approval, my answer was, open inverted comma, at the appropriate time, close inverted comma. I did not yield to the pressure of the opposition leaders, and ultimately they walked out. Their walkout was highlighted by the national and regional newspapers. The Indian Express, Delhi, 12th March, reported, the opposition members in Rajya Sabha today staged a walkout protesting against the government's refusal to commit itself to a firm date for seeking the approval of the House on the imposition of President's rule in 9 states. Opposition members except Sikh, close bracket, a few independents and a DMK member walked out when the Commerce Minister Pranab Mukherjee, who is the leader of the House, said that the government would seek the approval of the House for the presidential proclamation under Article 356 at an, open inverted comma, appropriate time, close inverted comma. Para. Earlier, the members belonging to all the opposition parties had strongly criticized the government for its action, dissolving 9 state assemblies despite the concern shown by the House when it passed an amendment to the motion of thanks to the President. Page 241. Para. Pranab Mukherjee justified the dissolution of the 9 state assemblies on the ground that the government in those states had lost the confidence of the people as reflected in the Lok Sabha poll. His own party, which had opposed the dissolution of state assemblies in 1977, had accepted the Supreme Court verdict on the issue. Open inverted comma. It is wrong to call it an undemocratic act, since people in these states are being given an opportunity to choose their rulers again. Close inverted comma, he said. Mr. Mukherjee also disputed the point made by some members that the House will not be fully representative. I repeat, representative if the government sought the approval on the presidential proclamation after 2nd April. Open inverted comma. This House is a continuing House even if some states are not fully represented. Close inverted comma, he said. Para. L.K. Advani, who led the opposition walkout, said that the minister was straying from the basic issue, disregarding of the views of the House on the dissolution issue was an affront to the House. He said, open inverted comma, he has added insult to the injury by indicating that the approval might be sought after 2nd April when 1/3 of the members retire, leaving the House not wholly representative. Close inverted comma. Para. Raising the issue immediately after the Minister of State of Home, Yogendranath Makwana, placed the proclamation of dissolving 9 state assemblies on the table of the House at the end of the question hour. The opposition members utilized the opportunity to criticize the government for its action and saw in it a threat to the federal structure of the country as well as revival of authoritarian trends. Para. Bhupesh Gupta and P. Ramamurthy had also strongly criticized the government's action. The chairman, M. Hidayatullah, found it difficult to control the House. Page 242. Chaos prevailed the next day as well and continued on the days that followed. The chairman suggested that I agree to have discussions before 2nd April. I told him that I would let him know on 19th March the exact date when the government would move the resolution for approval. I decided to move the resolution before 2nd April as almost every member belonging to the Congress had started crossing the floor and swelling our ranks. Moreover, I was sure of the support of a few independents and the DMK members. The attitude of the Congress members in the Rajya Sabha in the past was similar. After the split in the party in January 1978, we had only 15 members in the Rajya Sabha and almost the same number in the Lok Sabha. When Rajya Sabha met in February 1978, Kamalapati Tripathi was replaced by Bhola Paswan Shastri as the leader of the Congress party. He led the majority party in the Rajya Sabha because the ruling party, open bracket, Janata Party, close bracket, had hardly any strength before the biennial elections in 1978. The scene underwent a dramatic change after 6th March, when elections to the Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Maharashtra assemblies decisively established the popularity of Indira Gandhi over her detractors. Within weeks, the strength of Congress I rose from 15 to 65. The same story was repeated in the Lok Sabha, and C.M. Stephen, the leader of our party, was recognized as the leader of the opposition. Para. By this time, both Indira Gandhi and Sanjay Gandhi wanted to be selective in admitting members from the Congress into our party. At one stage, I had advocated admitting the members liberally because of the compulsion of getting the resolution passed by the House. Both of them saw reason in my view, but insisted that no commitment should be made to renominate them in the next biennial election. I fully agreed with this and made it quite clear to those seeking admission to our party that they should not expect any price for their support. Page 243. The allegations made by the leaders of the opposition that Congress I had won over the Congress members by promising them renomination in the next election or otherwise were baseless and unfounded. However, Congress' desire to return to the mainstream brought them back to the Congress. I was confident of winning in the Rajya Sabha. But while I did not like to be bullied by the opposition, I did not like the chairman to exercise the exclusive right of determining the agenda of the House either. The chairman had the chairman had a desire to assume total power with regard to the business of the House. This role of presiding officer may have been theoretically correct, but was practically not possible. The House is a political institution, not merely a debating club. It has to transact the business of the nation, initiated and be guided by prevailing political forces. The Rajya Sabha was to play a balanced role in transacting business. It was not a secondary chamber, but at the same time, it could not take advantage of the numerical position of a party to play an obstructionist role against the wishes of the ruling party, which had come to power with the mandate of the people. So, the handling of a delicate situation by maintaining a balance required political judgment, not always available with persons otherwise eminent and competent. Para. I am of the view that offices such as those of the President and Vice President should not be held by people other than politicians, and the role of presiding officers in legislative chambers has to be similarly viewed. In India, presiding officers are elected with the support of political parties, and as such, one cannot expect them to be free of political inclination altogether. Though they must strive to remain neutral, their neutrality cannot be stretched to a ridiculous extent. Para. When the issue was raised again on the floor of the House on 12th March, I had to point out that the leader of the House had a say in deciding the business of the House. Page 244. When the opposition leaders failed to get any firm date, they used their parliamentary skills to push the government into an awkward position. Bhupesh Gupta and others tabled a motion under Rule 170, open bracket, Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business in the Rajya Sabha, close bracket, and A.C. Kulkarni moved a non-official resolution as his name was approved in the ballot under Rule 157. Both these motions had the same objective of discussing the proclamation and expressing disapproval of the government's action. It was a clear move on the part of the opposition, and they were perfectly within their rights to resort to these methods by putting the government on the mat. Para. I consulted the whips and assessed the strength of the party as on that date. I also discussed with Indira Gandhi and assured her of getting the majority on the floor of the House. I also told her it would be desirable to settle the issue before 2nd April so that we could claim to have defeated the combined opposition even after honoring their wishes. Indira Gandhi saw logic in my suggestion. She told me not to be complacent, but to work hard to ensure victory on the floor of the House. We admitted a large number of members from Congress-ers who were only too eager to join the ruling party. Para. When the issue came up again before the House on 12th March, we made our position clear. I pointed out that with regard to government business, under Rule 23, the leader of the House, in consultation with the chairman of the House, should indicate the date and time to be allocated in the Business Advisory Committee. The government business should get priority over other business. With regard to the admissibility of the motion, the chairman's view was final. I repeat, the chairman's view was final. So I appealed to the members to keep in mind that mutual cooperation and understanding among the parties were necessary for the conduct of business in the House. Page 245. On 19th March, I informed the Chairman and the Business Advisory Committee of the House that the government intended to move the resolution seeking approval of the presidential proclamations in respect of 9 states on 27th March. There was no need to admit any parallel motion by private members. This was agreed to in the Business Advisory Committee, represented by all the political parties and presided over by the chairman. Thus, the bitterness created in the House was done away with, and the chairman found it easier to have a smooth session in the House. By this approach, I also built up a good rapport with opposition leaders. Para. With an understanding among parties in the House, tackling situations becomes much easier. During my 5-year period as leader of the House, I received cooperation from opposition parties and leaders. Though it was not always smooth sailing, I sailed through some of the most challenging situations because of this. Para. When the government resolution seeking approval to the presidential proclamation in respect of 9 states was moved and debated on 27th March, the opposition parties knew that they had no chance. A large number of the members belonging to the Congressers had already joined our party. Out of the 8 Congress members from West Bengal, only Pranab Mukherjee, Shankar Ghosh, Jawaharlal Banerjee, Pratima Bose, and Pony Hansda were in Congressers. The rest, that is, D.P. Chattopadhyay, Ahmed Hossain Mondal, and Prosenjit Bormon, voted with us. The statutory resolution of Bhupesh Gupta was negated by 95 to 119 votes, and the government resolution moved by Gyani Zail Singh, the then Home Minister, was carried by voice vote. After the resolution was voted out, the opposition parties walked out of the House. Before walking out, L.K. Advani observed, open inverted comma, "Sir, I and my colleagues regard this as a dark day of democracy. We cannot be a party to the approval of this resolution." These proclamations are anti-democratic. Close inverted comma. Footnote 86. Other opposition groups except the DMK and Muslim League and a few independents also walked out. Bhupesh Gupta once again showed his debating skills and ability in opposing the government's motion and in moving his own. His was one of the best speeches delivered on that occasion. While formally replying to the debate as the mover of the statutory resolution, he observed, open inverted commas, "Sir, we have fought a very important battle, That is our satisfaction. Many of us will be out of this scene some time or the other, but the arguments, the logic, the reasons that have been advanced by us in support of our motion will remain just as theirs also will remain. I repeat, will remain just as theirs also will remain. It will be for the posterity to judge as to which side was speaking the voice of the people and of democracy. Probity and integrity in public life, and who was speaking the voice of a fanatic, frenzied, limitless lust for consolidation and extension of authoritarian personal power. Close inverted comma. The sincerity with which he spoke was ringing loud and true. Unfortunately, the same could not be said of the other opposition leaders. They showed the path in 1977. What was done in 1980 was just a facsimile of the 1977 action. If the first was wrong in 1977, then it was wrong in 1980. But no one could claim what was justifiable for other parties was wrong for the Congress eye. In 1980, the Janata Party was paid back in its own coin. Some journalists attempted to explain that the grounds during the Janata Party rule were different and therefore justified. Most of the state assemblies then were continuing on an extended period, they said, as their 5-year term was over in 1977. Open bracket, elections took place in 1972, close bracket. They committed, I repeat, they continued because their life was extended by amending the Constitution during the emergency. The press argued that the Janata Party had an additional ground to dissolve the state assemblies. Apart from the, open inverted comma, theory of mandate, close inverted comma. Page 247. But there was one chink in this armor of argument. It was factually incorrect to say that all the state assemblies dissolved in 1977 had outlived their 5-year term. The assemblies in Uttar Pradesh and Orissa were not supposed to have been dissolved until 1979, as election to these state assemblies had taken place in 1974. The Gujarat Assembly was elected in 1975 and had its term up to 1980. The fact of the matter was that in 1977, the Janata Party wanted to win elections to the state assemblies, while the wave of popular support continued to flow in their favor. In 1980, the Congress wanted to do the same. Footnotes. Footnote 86, Rajya Sabha Debates, Volume 113, number 12, page 389.